My name is Cynthia Dowd, and I teach organic chemistry at the undergraduate level, so the second semester of undergraduate. I have about 70 to 80 students in that class.
I teach several classes involving large class sizes. I have a section of the introductory course on world history, alternating with a section of the introductory course on European history. The classes might be anywhere from 75 to 250 students.
My primary responsibility is to teach statistics and research methods to doctoral candidates and advanced master's candidates. And I use Colonial Cast in every single course that I teach.
I was in the project management program for nearly 15 years, and for all that time we've had what we like to call a dual mode single program. By dual mode I mean that we have distance that's based on the campus lectures. We started 15 years ago with mailing video cassettes out, and we've come a long way since then to a state-of-the-art system where recordings start when you walk into the classroom.
The decision to capture lectures using Colonial Cast was a natural follow-on from general changes that had crept into my teaching style as technology changed. As I began to change from chalk on slate to marker on whiteboard, finally to projected PowerPoint presentation, the idea of being able to capture the PowerPoint presentations to be reviewed later on by the students on their own time was a very attractive idea, so I thought I'd give it a try.
I've taught the course for 5 years, and I started to straight lecture, give the lectures without any kind of recording, and then 1 year I tried simply audio recording the lectures, and that worked okay. There was a lot of manipulation that you had to do of the files to get the files online and available to the students. But then I really wanted to move to video and audio capture of the material, because with chemistry, specifically organic chemistry, there's a lot of visual manipulations that the students have to get accurately in their notes, and I was noticing in the student notes that there were a lot of mistakes, and if there are mistakes, then there's the tendency for the student, or the possibility that the student will not learn something correctly. And I thought if we could video capture it, then they would have a record of how I write down a structure, and then they would be able to learn.
The students that I'm dealing with come from different countries, a wide variety of different countries. And again, having Colonial Cast there so that they can overcome whatever deficiencies they have with regard to understanding English on the fly makes a huge difference for these students.
Because it's, you know, sort of contained in the electronics of the Colonial Cast system, all of the information that I'm writing down on the document camera is captured in the video capture, where that wouldn't happen if I was sort of a board writer.
The students get to study the original lecture and get to think about it and come with questions. So that's, I think, from the student point of view, and even from the professor's point of view, I enjoy it because I can clarify things that occurred during the class that maybe went by too quickly in the class, so the campus students might not have had time to ask a question.
It saves me an incredible amount of time, because I'm spending time now dealing with questions that are offshoots from the basics that I've taught in class, which is what I should be doing. The students should be asking me, oh, that was an interesting point. I wonder if you could expand on that or elaborate on that. And now I have time to do that, because I'm not answering questions about the basics. The students are getting the basics through Colonial Cast.
It gives me a fallback that I can refer students to when they need to review or repeat material. I like it because it keeps me on my toes, because I have to be careful that I am saying things in a clear and understandable way and not repeating myself and trying to manage my tendency to go off on tangents. And it has been helpful at various points when I have had to travel, or when I've been ill, or when students miss class and want to catch up on it.
You can have a discussion with a student where a student might say, you talked about something in the lecture and I didn't understand it, and I might respond, well, at what point in the lecture? And say, well, 4 minutes, you know, into this section here, and I can go look at those 4 minutes, and I can come back to him and say, well, here's what exactly didn't you understand about what I was saying? And the student will tell me, and then I think it enables us to get to the same point in misunderstanding, if you will, earlier.
With a Colonial Cast set of lectures from one of my semester-long classes, we were able, with the help of the Instructional Technology Lab at my university, to edit down a captured lecture removing extraneous material directly related to the semester and the time of year that that class was meeting, and breaking it up into 20-minute chunks so that it could be used in an online class in a format that the students could get at quite easily and that would come in smaller segments so that downloads wouldn't be a problem or attention span lagging wouldn't be a problem.
Whether or not you're fully online or fully on campus, there's going to be electronic components, and the electronic components are going to increase. There's no question about that. And we can all build our individual libraries that we can transfer from course to course and take advantage of and give students a very rich experience in terms of the information that they can access in all the different formats.
The feedback that I get from my students is just, it's qualitative, it's palpable. You can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can get a sense that these students really are saying, thanks to Colonial Cast, I'm really getting a much deeper understanding, much more quickly of the material, and it's under my control. I don't have to feel as if I'm beholden to the one lecture or the one class session, and if I don't get it, then I'm in big trouble. That's, you know, from a student's perspective, that's a huge advantage.
I've received very positive feedback from the students. I've sort of made careful notes about this because it's something that I want to evaluate, the students' perception. I find that few students use the video files at the beginning of the course, but as we draw towards exam time and particularly final exam time, their usage goes up. And I'd say right now about 2/3 of the class, at least, you know, by raising their hands, say that they use the video capture.
Places where I would personally be tempted to try to expand my abilities in the technology side of teaching would be a better integration, possibly, of live video, somehow embedding it or making it accessible on a different website that I could switch to in the middle of the lecture to show movie clips, documentary clips, live TV, or other kinds of action video in the class.
Although I tend to use Colonial Cast off the podium computer that is in the classroom, because I have a tablet computer, if I wanted to, I could yoke the audio to the tablet computer and write on the slides at the very time that I'm presenting them, because it is a tablet. Although I tend not to do that as much as I used to, that would be an additional capability that Colonial Cast currently does provide, and I suppose I could use that in a more extended way than I do.
Some surprises. Reviewing a Colonial Cast lecture is a great way to determine some things about your own lecture style. You hear your voice, you see your PowerPoint, you're not distracted by hearing it through your own ears, you're hearing what the students heard, you're noticing every or ah, you're noticing every point where the PowerPoint slide stays on the screen for too long, as I mentioned earlier, or you zip through points too quickly. It helps in thinking about construction and pacing of a lecture, much as having the opportunity to watch yourself being videoed in a lecture setting gives you a chance to see from an outsider's perspective what you're doing as a teacher.
When I first started doing the video capture and in discussion with my colleagues, I was afraid that that this would become sort of more of an online course, that students wouldn't come to class. And in a class of 75, I was worried that I would see a significant drop-off in class attendance, and that interestingly proved not to be the case.
I'd like to see live streaming so that many of our distance students who are in the same time zone express the desire to occasionally participate in a class in real time, and that would be tremendously useful.
I've never adapted clickers into my large lecture classes, but if it were possible to field a question and get student input in real time on the screen, captured as part of the lecture, that might be fun. It might be an interesting way to try to make a large lecture class a little more interactive and a little bit more Socratic in a way than it typically is.
It would be interesting to me to know how many students are using this, which lectures, which portions of the semester, and then which students are using it the most. It will help me understand how students, which students are having problems, maybe which lectures are having problems, so which material I need to focus on a little bit more. And I think that would be useful feedback on both sides, both for the student and for myself.
Colonial Cast was a surprise. I did not say I needed it. You know, the Academic Technologies unit figured out that this might be worth doing. and said, "Would you like to try it?" And I said, "Sure." And the next thing I knew, I was doing it. So I wish I could say that I was behind the idea. I had nothing to do with the idea, and somebody else had something to do with the idea, and I simply implemented it, and it was great. I'm in the same sort of boat here. You've got Colonial Cast. It seems to work very, very well. It seems to be filling a need, and I can't think of anything in addition that I'm going to need above what Colonial Cast does. But that isn't saying that there isn't something else. It's just saying I haven't thought of anything else. The Academic Technologies unit has really done a nice job of getting ahead of me on this one. And if there is something else, I'm looking forward to Academic Technologies telling me about that, and I'll try that one out, and we'll see how that works.